Well, I don't know if you can hear me. It's a party. It's a very good party. Kat Kramer is throwing a due for her new movie, the new Abolitionists, which is a film I think everybody should see. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm about to. But I hear it's excellent, and coming from a Kramer, it's got to be. I mean, this month alone was Stanley Kramer a month on Turner Classic Movies, and this man did every movie in the world from Judgment at Nuremberg to It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, the most diverse and most fabulous films that you could possibly want to see. And he's no longer with us, but his family is, and Kat Kramer is, and she's done this film about children and child sex trafficking, and probably one of the worst themes, if you want to call it that you could imagine, but something that is happening all over the world, and with increasing frequency here in the United States. So I hope everybody gets to see it. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I know it's going to be a great film, and go see the movie.
Kat Kramer's Films That Changed the World, and Heroes for Change at the LA premiere of Christina Zorich's acclaimed documentary, The New Abolitionists. And I'm so pleased to be hosting the event tonight and also moderating the panel of experts after the film. And I have an esteemed member of the host committee tonight, Philippe Mora. Thank you so much for coming, and his lovely wife. Do you guys want to say something together about what you're looking forward to? I mean, it's a very heavy film. It's impactful, but it's necessary.
Well, I'm honored to be here because I think it's a very important issue. This trafficking thing is, it's obviously terrible, it's tragic, so anything that can be done, like an event like this evening, that can fight this inhumanity is tremendous. So we're happy to be here. Thank you for organizing it.
Thank you so much for being here. And so if anything that you want to share, because everybody's so hush about it, you're not supposed to say anything, but if we don't shed light on it,
it's on the news every night.
Right. It's been very much increasing since the pandemic, too, because of the greed.
And people are jumping out of cars outside of schools and grabbing children as we speak, sadly. It's everywhere. It's not isolated.
It's so sad and so shocking. So this is what evenings tonight are about, is to bring awareness to the issue, and also how people can get involved to help. You know, they all say, oh, let me help, I want to do something, but let's see if they really do, and have a call to action.
There's a lot of terrible things happening, unfortunately, in the world at any time. But this particular issue strikes me, because it involves children, is one of the worst disgraces that's occurring. We have to stop it.
We do, and the experts on the panel do a lot of undercover work, but some of them don't. You know, you'll find out the different approaches, but you know, some of their lives have been threatened by the work that they do, and you don't get that all the time in activism. But they're dedicating their lives to this, rescuing children and stopping, you know, as much as they can. And there's a lot of law enforcement that just ignores it, so that's going to be touched on tonight. But thank you so much.
Through legislation, that's where the awareness also begins.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for coming, and yeah, you too. Thanks.
Superwoman.
We'll see you afterwards.
You're a superhero.
Oh well,
helping
thank you.
Children like this.
Well, so are you for coming tonight, and for
you
know.
But you're the
Thanks. Oh, thank you so much. First of all, I'm happy to be here, and I'm so proud to be presenting The New Abolitionists. And I know how hard Christina and everyone worked on the film, and today's also a very special day because it was announced officially that Freestyle Digital Media is going to be distributing The New Abolitionists. So
Congratulations.
Isn't that wonderful? And it's the perfect documentary film about an issue that we all need to pay attention to, especially here in the U.S., not just in Southeast Asia or around the world, but right here in the U.S., because trafficking, and especially child sex trafficking, is happening and increasing. And Christina's been so brave and so inspirational and so impactful to be able to go to the regions that she did and film the abolitionists and those fighting to end sex trafficking, because it's really dangerous. And we have a great panel tonight. I'm so happy to be moderating, and it's going to be Christina and Landon. We also have Craig Martin with Knock, a docu-series he's doing. We also have Corey Nichols with Destiny Rescue, and Annie Dieselberg with Nightlight International. She's the co-founder. She's also in the film. And Jason Page with The Unlikely Mission. And there's going to be a lot of, we have a very solid host committee. A lot of the hosts are coming over, and my mom is here. I know this was also important to Christina because her mother, Olympia Dukakis, is a producer on the film. She also appears in it, and sadly she passed away last year, so this is one of her final projects. And so it takes a lot of guts and to take a risk, but my screening series is all about presenting films with social issues, especially those that we may not be paying attention to or that need to be looked at more and to shine a light and shed a light on the issues. And so I've dealt with the controversy before because my father, Stanley Kramer, made films of controversy, so I'm used to that. And this movie is very, brave, and it has a lot of controversy around it.
What about your father?
Well, Stanley Kramer was the voice of social conscience in Hollywood for many decades. He was also the most picketed producer. He was a filmmaker, a producer, director, but he was picketed for a lot of his films, and he dealt with issues like racial injustice, environmental and nuclear issues. Judgment at Nuremberg was about the Holocaust and the Nuremberg trials, and then Inherit the Wind was about the Scopes Monkey trials and what we teach in our schools, what we believe in. He made Bless the Beasts and Children, which was animal rights, and also about gun control, so many hot-button issues. He also, cast real paraplegics in The Men, and children that had mental retardation and Down syndrome, and A Child is Waiting, and A Little Person in Ship of Fools. So I also advocate for the disabilities and deaf community at large, and for some reason very focused on the deaf community. And of course CODA, I was very much behind that film. But this movie tonight is exactly why I started the screening series.
Wonderful.
So I'm very, very proud of Christina and team for being brave enough to go make this film and to get it out there for everybody to see, because they do need to see it.
How would you like the community to connect on human trafficking topic?
Well, there's a lot you can do. There can be a call to action tonight, and also you can the audience can talk to the panelists after and to Christina. Destiny Rescue, for example, has a booth here tonight. Some of the NGOs in the film could not be identified, and because they do a lot of undercover work, but there's all different ways you can get involved, and it starts with tonight seeing the film, and it's only going to be playing for a week at the Lemley Monica Film Center for an Oscar and awards qualifying run, so they can get their friends and colleagues and families and even kids, people that they know, to come support, because the proceeds from the film go to the organizations represented in the film, the 4 anti-trafficking groups. So that's how they can be involved just for this.
Anti-trafficking, human trafficking is pretty silent topic. We don't see too much about it. We don't see as many events. It would be nice if there is more connection from outside.
Well, it's an issue a lot of people don't want to talk about or look at, because there's a lot of bad people involved, very greedy, and they're exploiting kids and minors for money. And there's also like a new issues that are arising that have to do with cryptocurrency, and I'm going to be addressing those on the panel tonight.
I've been working in anti-human trafficking since 2009. Human trafficking is endemic and a part of the fabric of humanity, especially here in America. And I would say that it is probably the foremost of any social justice issue facing humanity. global. Again, it's an endemic issue, so it happens in every community all over the country, whether it's urban, inner city, or rural. And so every community has a responsibility to participate in some way or form.
Did you get a chance to speak to any of those victims?
Yeah.
How do you handle a conversation with a victim of human trafficking?
I would say our approach is probably radically different than most. I take a restorative justice approach to the circumstances. And so there is a team of people that are involved in the development and healing process of a victim. But when we use the word victim, we have to define what that really means. I think there's some very strong misconceptions of what victim means. Victimization, I believe, is like a hat. And people who participate in the trafficking process all share that hat. So it's not as black and white of an issue as people assume or misperceive.
And there's several different forms of human trafficking, is that right?
Yeah, so there's some distinctions between human smuggling and human trafficking.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about that?
So human smuggling is the transportation of people from one country to another. Okay, that's smuggling, in order to obtain citizenship. Trafficking, however, as it relates to sexual exploitation, is radically different than that. And obviously, sexualization of people is a form of exploitation. But I think also what's really important to understand is that there's also a distinction between prostitution and human trafficking. And the distinction, very specifically, is the intermediary, the management in between the solicitation of sex. And that's my niche and my expertise. I work with specifically traffickers themselves, gang members and members of organized crime, about how they do what they do for the safety of minors specifically.
Well, thank you so much for your interview and good luck with future work on
so much for
the topic. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, and I would like to know, how long are you involved in human trafficking?
I've been doing this work for about 20 years. I live in Bangkok, Thailand, and there's so much prostitution, and so as I was there trying to figure out what my niche would be, I saw the women who were in prostitution in the bars, and my heart really went out to them. And so I began to reach out through another organization until it became my full-time passion, and then I started this organization, Nightlight International, to be able to reach out to the women, but also to offer them an alternative employment that gives them dignity and helps them to move forward in life.
What is the hardest part on running organizations like that?
The hardest part is really the aftercare. It's not hard for us to go on the streets and to meet the women and to talk with them, but it takes a long journey of restoration to deal with all of the background issues that have made them vulnerable to go into prostitution, into sexual exploitation or trafficking. And so the hard part is really staying committed through the ups and downs of their journey to recovery.
Well, this is your commitment for 20 years, which is amazing. Now, if you can tell us, how do you communicate with a human trafficking victim?
I have an outreach team, so we are on the street, at street level, and so we go to the streets to meet the women who are the streetwalkers. We also go into the bars and the places where there are brothels. We build relationships enough with the management so that we're not a threat to them, and that gives us access to be able to talk with the women, to build relationships. In doing that, then we're able to find out which women are looking for a way out and which ones are ready for that.
How do you collaborate with communities?
Community is essential. It's essential for prevention, for building healthy families so that there's less vulnerability. It's essential for providing decent jobs so that there's economic alternatives. And it's essential for recovery because when people feel supported by community, they're less vulnerable. Yeah, so community is essential in every part of the journey.
Now, how can media be helpful in this topic?
Media can be very helpful in showing the reality, not just sensationalizing it, because if it's sensationalized, then most people in community think that they can't do anything about it. They're waiting for their special SWAT team, or it has to be a special undercover operation in order to address it. But so I think when media shows what I call the horrific norm of the majority, then it helps everybody to understand that they have a role to play from prevention through to intervention and all the way through restoration.
Do you think there more movies should be made to spread awareness?
Absolutely. I think because not everyone sees the same movies or the same documentaries, and so in order to get the message out to more people, more needs to be made.
Well, thank you so much for supporting, and good luck on your work, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You are the editor.
Yes.
Let's start from the beginning. How did you get involved in this?
So I got involved with the project through an acquaintance that Christina and I both had. She was looking for an editor, and I was moving to Los Angeles. So I joined the project in 2017, pretty much as I was moving. And we started out, or I started out with 14 hours of footage, and we worked that down over the course of probably total of 3-year period, working off and on, down to 99 minutes. So that's how I came to be on the project. This is my first project in Los Angeles.
You as an editor, you have to make sure that the public will receive the emotions.
Yes.
What was your trick on editing?
So I would say the trick for editing this film was to hold on to the truths and the stories while shaping them down so that the audience could receive them. Because there were a lot of details and a lot of stories left on the cutting room floor that were some even worse than what you hear in the film. But for an audience to hear all these things coming at them too quickly, it would be way too much. So we worked a lot to whittle down. Christine and I together, we worked from after the assistant editors had gotten through culling footage and narrowing things down, we worked from 14 hours down to 99 minutes just together, essentially having discussions, conflicts, disagreements. Right. She would see one edit, I would see a different one. Anytime, any sentence where we were like, what kind of story do we want to tell, we would see the complete opposite cut. So that conflict and that resolution of that conflict led to a shaping of, Christina likes to call it like molding out of clay, some kind of Michelangelo quote or something, I can't remember, but essentially molding a film with the footage telling you and instructing you where to go. At the same time, trying to pace the emotions because you're going to feel them, you're going to have them, you're going to react, but doing it in a way as gently as possible so that the audience can hear, receive it, and respond.
This is the type of footage you can probably do 10 movies out of it.
Oh, definitely. There was a
tough decision.
That is a tough decision. There actually was a point when we went back into editing to revise some portions of the film in 2020 after the pandemic started, and I said, can I go in and do my own edit? And so I spent 2 months editing my own cut of the film. Now, it wasn't as good as what we have now, and in some ways I would say it wasn't that great, but we did find certain things in that process that were useful. And as I was going through and creating my own version, I saw so much footage of stuff that I was like, if we were making this movie, it could have been that. If we were making this movie, it could have been this. And in that process, too, going through those interviews, you get emotional. You have it affect you. It's hard not to. There were moments editing this where I would just have to stop and cry because of what we were talking about in the film. So it's pretty tough from time to time.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it, honestly.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for all the great work, How did you become involved in this project?
I met an anti-trafficker at a Hollywood party in 2012, a woman named Greve, who had an NGO called unlikely heroes, and she started telling me a bunch of horror stories. And I was shocked and appalled. I wanted to help. She'd been working as a nurse in Northern California, and women and children had come in who had been trafficked. And she had just decided to quit her job and build homes and rescue women and children and staff them, but she needed funds. So I said, well, what can I do to help you? And I reached out to people I knew who I thought could help her, because I had not or couldn't really conceive of myself as a director at that point. I was an acting teacher. I had been an actress, so I wasn't even thinking that way. And then and they all wanted to get paid. And she was starting an NGO, so she came back to me after these interviews and said, Christine, all the money has to go to the girls. But I knew she needed fundraising materials. So that was the moment when I thought, maybe I should make something like a documentary. It's a great idea about the work she's doing. Cut to a few years later, I sold some property and I started on my journey. That's how it started.
What's your emotion about what you have accomplished today? Because we're at the movie premiere and it's absolutely amazing what you have done. Even though that you were not sure or you should do it or not.
I think sometimes I'm going to get emotional. I'm going to get emotional.
It's okay, it's the real.
Sometimes something happens in your life. You meet certain people and it changes you. And when I figured out that this was going on, I was thinking about this a day ago. My brother Stefan had a daughter. My brother Peter had a daughter at that time who was the age of the girls that she was describing in her story, that she was trying to get out of an underground brothel. And I think something happened in me. It changed me, because you're a woman. This is something that just can't exist in our world. So I don't think it was a logical thing. I think I just became a little crazed, a little out of your mind, but you also feel, what kind of a human being am I if this doesn't matter to me? And so then I vaulted myself in a bunch of circumstances and met people who do this work. And I had people around me saying, I think this is what you're supposed to do with the money. I said, but I'm not a director. I can't do this. But I remembered something my father said to me, and I'm going to get emotional again. He said, Christina, you learn by doing. So I just decided to do this. And here we are. I just didn't give up.
Who is at risk for human trafficking?
Wow. Well, this is, first of all, the whole purpose of making the movie was for me to answer those questions, because I taught acting for a while, and I was very obsessed for a while teaching, trying to figure out the mechanics of acting, because I had acted before without really training. My parents had a company, they put me in stuff. So I had developed a mind for the mechanics of things. And I think that's the part of me that clicked off. And I was like, what is this? What does it look like? How are people fighting it? Why is it? Like, all those questions that I had about the structure of my craft, and I had to go down that road of figuring it out as a teacher. That started happening to me now with the subject matter, or like any actress would when they're going after a part. So it was like a puzzle, even though I was disturbed, enraged, afraid, all the feelings that come up when you have to deal with the subject matter. I was that feeling of like, what is it and why is it and how is it, overrode that. And so that was kind of why I made a movie about the people who do this work. And of course, there's a structure to what they do. They rescue, they rehabilitate, they prosecute, and they prevent. Those are the categories of how they attack it. And then within that, there's all kinds of different systems that, when you start interviewing all of them, you realize, as I was going down that road, I started, okay, that works, and they're also doing this, but they're also doing something a little different that works. So it was that kind of a learning process. I think most women, this is a subject matter. I'm not saying it doesn't matter to men. I think it matters to men and women, but I think specifically for women, because there's a lot of young women and children, it triggers a whole bunch of stuff for us. you know.
It was a very dangerous journey at the same time.
Well, it was dangerous, but because I didn't know what it was yet. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the first trip was in 2015, and it was like a charter trip. I followed some of the NGOs that are now in the film, and I like, for instance, Annie, who's the third group in the film. I shot by myself, and I thought, I'm going to get the film in the first trip. And I realized it was like an exploratory experience, and I was just studying the subject matter and these people. I sent her the footage when I got back to the States, and she's like, you can't use any of that. I was like, oh, great. All right. So I had to really rethink how to shoot this, because you're trying to protect people, you're trying to protect the groups, you're trying to protect the subject matter. It's a real fine line to like try to understand it and figure out what it is without dishonoring so many people involved that are, you know, on many levels. So, yeah, it was a tricky puzzle to figure out.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you encourage the audience to help?
Okay, I'll put it this way. This is going to sound pretentious, but I'm going to say it anyway. This felt like a divine assignment for me. Like, you know, you meet certain people, you fall in love. It doesn't make sense, but it happens, right? Because it feels special and important, like part of your destiny. This subject matter felt that way for me. Like I couldn't shake it, I couldn't forget about it, I couldn't walk away. So I think maybe that's not true for everybody, but maybe you're supposed to tell somebody about it, or maybe, like it happened to me recently, I was driving by a gas station and I pulled up and something felt suspicious, and I to this day I think something was going on with this and this is in the States, and so it could just be reporting something that seems suspicious. So I think it's going to be different for each person. The groups that I got involved with had a few things they would say. You can support the work some of these people are doing. They always need financing. They always need fundraising funds. You know, there's a creative idea. There's a business. Some people would go to these organizations and do like kind of trips to get educated that were business people, and then they would come up with a business idea, and the funding would go to the group, or it would be a development of job skills for the girls so that they were contributing in that way and creating products. So there's all kinds of different there's just a bunch of different it's a creative experience, your response to it. So I think you can align yourself. I know somebody who created a product that, I think where you put your money as in a capitalist society, if you decide you want to put your money into this work, you can create a product that the funds go to anti-trafficking work. A friend of mine had a coffee business. I decided to use the run of this film as a rolling fundraiser. So when people say to me, what can you do? Buy a ticket to the movie. Besides some of the comps that opening night required, the rest of it is going to go, almost 100% is going to be going to the 4 anti-trafficking groups featured in the film. I'm going to divide it up and give it to them. I didn't want the money. It felt dirty to take it. So, that's my way of contributing. But everybody is going to have to search their own heart and figure out in a small way or a big way what they can do.
Well, I'm on the host committee, and when Kat asked me to be on the host committee, I right away said yes, because human trafficking is a huge problem, and people aren't even aware of it. They are not aware of what is going on, and it's now starting to come. I think people are becoming more and more aware, and we have to watch out. There's signs to watch if someone's being trafficked, and if you are, think that something's going wrong or something's wrong, you need to say something, because chances are something is wrong.
There's not enough people communicating. I think Paris Hilton, she came up with different signs for communication signs. But what do you think public should do? What kind of awareness public should raise?
Well, the public has to watch if there's, and children, they're trafficking children. They're trafficking, there's sex, there's slaves, it's going on, and we need to be aware of it, and we need to put a stop to it, what we need to do.
Why do you support human trafficking film today? How important it is for you?
Being a woman in Hollywood, just that alone is a feat. To be a woman and to survive. I am actually a survivor of my mother's suicide. I'm also a survivor of rape. So human trafficking is another issue that women, especially women, face. And we're also losing something like 800,000 children a year go missing. I don't think that the conversation is public enough. I think that films like this help curate a conversation for people that don't know what's going on. So I think with all of these topics that we're talking about, especially after lockdown, education is the number one thing, to educate people on the stats and what's really going on. So.
Tell us about your latest project.
So for those of you who don't know, my name is Rochelle Royale, and I'm producing a show called House of Royale, Haus. And the show came about because I did lose my mother to suicide. And so it's been years since I lost her, and I finally feel like it's time to come out and talk about that and bring on other artists to talk about how they cope and survive losing loved ones to suicide, and just mental health in general, and also how do we survive the day-to-day as an artist, as a performer, because we get hit very hard with depression because we're constantly giving of ourselves. Yes. So I just wanted to create a safe space for artists to come on and talk about this stuff, and so that will be, the teaser is out, and the first episode will be out January 2023, and we have a couple of guests such as Billy Porter and Whitney Cummings, who we are looking at to have on the show. So yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations and good luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
Human trafficking is a serious problem, and it affects innocent people. It's just heartbreaking, and it's all happens in the shadows, so nobody knows too much about it. So it's so wonderful to have a film come out that's going to expose a lot of this and bring it to the attention of people, because I don't think it's on the radar of most people at all. And I just came back from Africa, and I'm trying to save elephants. I'm trying to build a school over there for the undereducated girls who are not exactly trafficked, but there's so many girls over there who get raped, and then they quit school, and they become undereducated mothers and stuck in poverty the rest of their lives.